Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willie Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynn Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. Okay, and good evening once again, and welcome to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. I am your host, Willie Hassell, your gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And she is the always lovely, the mystical, the mysterious. She is Lynn Nickerson. Good evening, Lynn.
Good evening, Willie, and how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Lynn.
Good.
How are you today?
Great.
Nice cool day on the seacoast, wasn't it?
It was really, well, it wasn't exactly cool, was it? It was really quite nice. And Willie and I went looking for places to go ghost hunting, and we found a beautiful old house, the Jackson House, built in 1664. At least the main structure was built. And it's got the old-fashioned glass windows, diamond windows, and original plaster and boards, and it's huge, and it's a beautiful structure because it's so old and it's really in good condition.
It is.
And I think it's got some activity.
A very interesting place.
It is very interesting.
And we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But speaking of interesting.
Exactly.
Yes, interesting. Tonight's guest is William Hall. And Bill is the author of the best-selling book, The World's Most Haunted House, the true story of the Bridgeport poltergeist on Lindley Street. But tonight, we will be talking to Bill about his new book, The Haunted House Diaries, the true story of a quiet Connecticut town in the center of a paranormal mystery. Ghosts, aliens, and holes in space and time, along with black helicopters, heavily armed guards in military-type uniforms, and a possible secret military base, are all part of the mysteries of the Connecticut Triangle, and the family who have lived in a small farmhouse at the center of this paranormal hotspot for decades. The Haunted House Diaries is the true account of the family, taken from the personal diaries of Donna Philly over 5 decades of living in the house. And so now let us welcome to the show William Hall. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on again.
Hi, Bill. Good to see you again.
Thank you for joining us again.
My pleasure.
And how are you doing tonight?
Great.
Good. Now, has the book officially been released?
It has been put out in the stores. The official date's the 17th, but it is out already. I don't know if it's out everywhere, but I've seen it around my neck of the woods anyhow.
Is it on Amazon or?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, in stores, as well as, of course, off my website, williamjhallauthor.com, where people can get a signed copy.
And I did see your photograph. I did see your photograph of it in Barnes and Noble too.
Oh, really?
Really? My photograph?
Oh, maybe you didn't take it. There was a photo on Facebook. I thought it was yours. It's a picture of the Haunted House Diaries.
No, that's mine. I thought you meant a photo of me in Barnes and Noble. I'm
that's what I thought you meant. Oh, okay.
No, I meant the book, not in person.
Okay.
Well, excellent. Well, for those who don't really know about the book, I mean, it's another haunted book and it's kind of similar to the other one, The World's Most Haunted House. So it's not unlike its predecessor, The World's Most Haunted House. But the Haunted House Diaries makes equally outrageous claims of true events happening in the Philly household for over 5 decades. And the events are not isolated fabrications made by a sole witness. These events have happened repeatedly over the years, either separately or simultaneously, to many individuals, either connected to the house or living there. So, everybody out there, if you're up for a good ghost story, this will probably exceed your expectations, because there's a motley variety of paranormal activity that continues to take place even to this day in Litchfield Hills, Connecticut. So, Bill, could you tell us what?
I was just going to say, and it's all true, too.
And it's all true.
It's all true.
Oh, yeah.
And so, Bill, how did you come across this story? How were you apprised of it?
Well, I became good friends with Paulino as a result of initially interviewing him for the Lindley Street Bridgeport poltergeist case,
yes,
which
of
was
course.
the subject of the first book. Because Paul is, well, he was a big witness and one of the few, still with us that was there for so much of it. And Paul and I became good friends, and I, of course, expressed my interest in, doing some cases. And after a period of time went by and a lot of coaching and kind of testing me to make sure I was ready and not going to run into something I wasn't prepared for, good old Paul, somebody's got to watch me. And so Paul finally said, we've got this very interesting case in your neck of the woods. Would you like to go over there and talk to the family, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind, and let's see if we can bring you in on it. And that's how I got there. Paul and Ben have been working on this since 2005, so it has a lot of history to it, even from the investigation point of view, and then we really put it up a notch when I got involved and was doing the book, and brought Shane Sareway in. Who is probably listening. He says hello, by the way.
Oh, terrific. Hi, Shane.
Yeah, if you're listening, Shane.
Hi, Ben
hello.
and Paul.
Paul, Ben.
I don't know if Paul's listening. I know Shane is, so we have to skip all those Shane stories we were going to
Oh, okay.
tell.
We won't say anything.
Just
Yeah,
stick to the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
You say the investigation actually has been going on since 2005. How long ago did you get involved?
I would say it was shortly after World's Most Haunted House came out, and I went over and met the family in I think it was November, or it was the fall of 2013. So that's kind of when I got involved in it, and then did a lot of visits there and sleepovers, and forced the family to adopt me, and they've been regretting it ever since. No.
Exactly.
So,
what did you do, Bill, when you got involved? Did you start investigating? Were you recording? What were you doing?
Well, I started out by interviewing the family, having the original diary contents and asking a lot of questions about it.
Okay.
Trying to get the detail, because when you write a diary, of course, it's a certain kind of writing, and it's not going to answer all your questions, that a reader would necessarily have, even though it wasn't written to be, published in a book, but it was written to try to document things that have gone on there, so that so Donna, who grew up in that house and was keeping the diary, so that she would be able to have a record for future generations that would live there, and also perhaps make some sense of it by trying to find some patterns, or, insights by keeping a record of those things. So I started by interviewing and taking photos of the house, and going around the house, and of course talking a lot with Paul, and what information he had gathered up to that point, and from the more exciting part of that research. Not that the interview part isn't exciting, but obviously that's more of a research necessity kind of thing for the process. But the more exciting part is when Shane Saraway showed up with his fancy equipment, and because we had the monitor and the cameras that would go off, motion activated, and the voice activated recorders, and he had some really, really good ones with him too that were, the kind that I wouldn't have been able to gather in a
pretty
Ford,
fancy, huh?
that kind of yeah. It was great.
Well, Bill, there's really kind of like two stories to this. There's a lot of the activity that's outside, and then Shane came on and started, taking all of his measurements inside. Now, we talked a lot about what happened outside the last time you were on. So what are some of the findings of Shane from the inside? The farmhouse. We should clarify that, inside the farmhouse.
Right. Well, I asked Shane, do you want to read the diary before you get there? And he said no. And it amazed me because when he entered the door, he said a number of things that were in the diary. And he was describing, what he was sensing out there. And I could see the look in Donna's face at the time. And all of us, I was absolutely amazed that he was able to, perceive those things that had been written about, over the years. For example, one of the things was a train going by, which of course there's no train in front of her house. Both Paul and Shane had heard horses, hoof prints, and of course it's a very old piece of land, and her kitchen used to be a general store, so hearing some of those older sounds, would make sense. Shane also, there was snow on the ground. Now, when we had visited the house before with astrophysicist Mark D'Antonio, another part of our makeshift but really cool team, of course with Mark being the chief audio video expert for the Mutual UFO Network, he was of course invaluable for making sure I didn't put any photos that were not
authentic,
that were explainable,
yeah.
Right? And not that they would be fake, but obviously we misinterpret things, and I'm no optical expert as far as photos go, so I really think that any photo you think has paranormal activity, you're going to have to show somebody who knows, about photography and optics, and it's very complex, as I learned, with Mark there. But so Mark was there too, and Mark, when he was in the back walking, he detected a hollow area of land, that there was a section that was, there was something underneath, that it was hollow. And it's funny because the family didn't even know it, and Paul had not come across that or anything. But anyhow, when Shane was there, it was of course the bitter winter. There was snow everywhere, and Shane looked out the little window and he said, I'm sensing there's something hollow over there, and he points right to the area, and that was that was incredible.
Yeah.
And again, if you didn't know, Shane, I know it's tough for listeners because if you don't know me or you don't know Shane, you might be thinking, oh, it sounds like a bunch of, BS. But if you know Shane, he's the real deal. And, well, of course you guys know, but I know some of this stuff, and it's, for listeners is difficult, but that shocked me because there was snow over it. When Mark detected it, it was, because he's looking at the grass and, he banging his foot down kind of thing. And so, so Shane's highly sensitive, or as I say, he's got kind of the trifecta because he had a near-death experience. He grew up in a haunted house, and he's Native American. So he's
always part Native American, yeah. Well, let's not get too far away from that hollow section. What the heck was it? Has that been investigated? Is it a tunnel? What is it?
No, it we don't know what it is, and when Donna goes to sleep tonight, I'm going to go dig it up. No, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We don't really know what it is. I mean, it could just be structure, garage. It's really hard to tell what it could be. But it was just an interesting observation that he made underneath all this snow. Where there's of course no way of him knowing. So.
Well, isn't that the site of some of the strange activity of like full body apparitions?
Well, yeah, I mean that whole land area really is a site of all sorts of activity. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily just in that area, but it's everywhere on that piece of land for sure.
I recall Shane having said something about he saw like several different apparitions from different periods, different dress, coming and going seemingly over that area of ground.
And didn't he
right.
mention
Yes.
Native American too?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you're correct with that. I do remember him pointing that out. And again, I don't know if that could be in relation to the hollow area, or it could have just been in the backyard. But of course, either way, that whole piece of land,
the whole land is strange.
Yeah, and it certainly could be something extra that's contributing, to it, based on that hollow part, or it could be, of course, completely unrelated. We don't know, but just the water surrounding the house on three sides is. Makes it kind of like a poster child for being the epicenter of this paranormal
catalyst. Yeah. Would you like to mention some of the occurrences in the house, Bill, for our listeners? Because I'm sure they don't know exactly how this place or the land is haunted.
Right. And it's been going on for hundreds of years in that whole area. One very interesting story is Donna's grandson, from the very time, even when he was just a toddler, he'd toddle over to the bathroom and look up and point. And we even have a home video of him on his rocking horse where he keeps pointing. And he would be mesmerized by something, in the air there. Almost like he's interacting with it. This is even before he, was talking, and then as he got a little bit older, he'd put toys around the tree in the front in the yard there, and they asked, what are you doing? Well, I'm putting toys out for Ashwar. And he explained that Ashwar is a little girl in a blue dress.
He called her his sister, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. His sister, also he called her a friend. He did call her his sister. And he said that she was in a car accident with her mother, and she was stuck here to observe. And she was stuck up in the tree to observe. She didn't know where her mother was. And so this went on, to make a long story of this incident a little bit shorter. But Paul was over there in 2010, and it was at night, and it was dark, and he was talking to Donna's grandson, and said, Paul said, "Is Ashwar here now?" And he said, "Oh yeah, she's right up in the tree." When he points out, so Paul went out there with his video camera, and he filmed up into the tree. We couldn't see anything, and when he played the film back, he had caught this. I equate it to like a serpent tadpole-like looking creature. That comes down. It looks like it's coming down the tree branch, but Mark D'Antonio actually said it's not on the tree. It's actually in front of the tree, which is even more bizarre. And it's coming down, and then it kind of goes into a mist, which I think is the most shocking part. Because, before that you can say, well, maybe it's a deranged squirrel or snake or, something. Even though even that doesn't make sense if you look at the coloring and the way it moves and, that kind of thing. But even if you're grabbing at straws at trying to figure out what it is. When the thing goes into a mist, that's when you really like, wow, And actually, that video could be seen if listeners Google the Haunted House Diaries and put a space and put Ashwar, Ashwar. You can actually see that video.
Oh, I'm going to check that out. I've
yeah.
seen a photo of it, but I haven't seen the video.
Yeah, the video is there's photos of it in the book, and actually there also is a guy, Gregory Harrell, who wrote a book about these creatures that he caught and filmed over a period of 2 years, and they look like Ashwar.
And where? Was it in the same area or somewhere else?
No, I believe he's in Ohio or something.
Oh.
He was trying to catch vandals and caught these things on film, and then filmed and observed them for a period of 2 years. And so we talked about it, and I included the details and things that he learned about these creatures from his observation and what his theories are. Of course, we don't know what they are, and he sent me 90 minutes of film on these things, and boy, it looks like it's the same
thing.
It looks like it. Yeah, it's just a really so that's an example of a real bizarre story, things that go on in the house.
Bill, according to his theory, what is that thing?
Well, he deems it as he's thinking that they're aliens.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's.
I know part of the goings on at the house and in the area. It's not just ghosts, but it's aliens too, correct?
Right, and as Paul pointed out, and this is similar to I do a chapter in the book. What has magic taught me about the paranormal, and a lot of it is. We always see things and, of course, try to put them into context with what makes, we try to make sense out of things.
Relative to our experience,
Yeah, exactly. And look for connections and everything. And, Paul said a thing that's very true. If something happens inside, we tend to think, it's a ghost or a spirit or whatever. If it happens outside, we tend to think of it as a UFO. And, of course, there were things that happened in the house that were more indicative of UFOs, and things that happen outside that, could be more indicative of, just the paranormal. But, that's kind of the way that we think of things.
How do we explain it? Yeah.
Right. So that's always a challenge.
And when Shane was in here, he brought a picture with him, which actually is in the book, too.
It is, yeah.
It's taken in the kitchen, I believe. And it's a very bizarre photo. It's kind of like what is it? Two different dimensions.
It does. It looks like there's a tear in time, and the light is shining through.
But there's also what looks like an alien.
Yep. There's also
an
alien in the picture.
And what's really weird about the once you see that the alien, it looks so clear and detailed. And Paul said a listener of his radio show pointed that out. He had that photo for years and never saw that. And it's like the minute I saw it, I was like, wow, And again, I say with all pictures, the most that we can say is they don't look, they're not easily explainable. What they are and what they're evidence of course. That's we can only tell you what we think, it's one of those things. But yeah, it's the alien gray in this thing is
and
it's pretty incredible once you see it. Yeah.
When we saw the photo here in the studio, of course it's bigger than the one in the book.
Right. It was very clear.
And as soon as Shane pointed it out, it's definitely, no question about it.
So that's only one of the little aliens. But what about the story? There are so many different types of events in this house. But there's also one that was very strange, and I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was Donna or Michelle. She got up in the middle of the night, went to the kitchen sink to get some water, saw a reflection in the window, and there was this odd blob stepping out from behind the refrigerator. And she said it was about 5 feet tall, it was flesh-colored, and it looked like it had tumors all over it. Do you recall that?
Yes. Yeah.
Like page 145?
Yeah, and that's one of the many kinds of things seen
Strange,
there.
unexplainable.
There was this large butterfly kind of creature, this little quote unquote boy entity with elongated ears, which
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
which points more to UFOs. There was some UFO kind of light activity and room lights that would be consistent with the literature as far as UFOs go. And then there were ancestors, and the children knowing these ancestors that they never met or never saw a photo of, and and seeing, oh yeah, um, that's Uncle George. He used to play with me when I was in my crib. Just weird things like that coming out of the children's mouths that were fascinating.
Yeah.
And then some of it is the interactive kind of experiences, like the notes being left.
That was odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the notes.
Nobody wrote them, but they were there.
Right. Yeah. So for the listeners, and there was 1 week where the mother opened the mailbox and there was a note in it. Sorry, we miss you, Betty and Fred. And I said, oh, we haven't seen them in 30 years. And called them up, and they said no, they didn't leave a note, and they're not in the area and haven't been in the area for years. And so then about a week goes by, and the mother finds another note in the mailbox from Ruby and Garnett, and almost the same writing, sort of shaky and pressed deeply into the paper. And she didn't see them for many years, and so she called them to have them over for lunch, and she said she was going to call them. And that afternoon, they ended up knocking on the door, and the mother welcomed them in. Donna's mother welcomed them in, and told them, I got your note. Sorry we missed you. And they looked at each other puzzled, and we didn't leave you a note. And in fact, deciding to stop there a few minutes before, it was just on a whim. They no longer live in the area. It was unplanned. They were just passing through. So, that's another, fascinating kind of interaction.
Yeah, it's strange interaction, totally inexplicable. Well, Bill, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to be taking a break, and we are talking to Bill Hall, and he's the author of The Haunted House Diaries, and we will be back in just a moment.
Okay, and you are listening to WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End. And Supernatural Magazine, the UK's newest paranormal magazine, provides support to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. It is the magazine's goal to bring every aspect of supernatural news and research from around the world under one roof to create a universal platform for all those interested in the supernatural. Visit them online at supernaturalmagazine.com. And we will be back in just a couple minutes. Yeah, welcome back to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience on WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End. And programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is made possible by you, our members, and by One Sky Community Services, serving people with developmental disabilities, acquired brain disorders, and others in need of support since 1983. Online at oneskyservices.org. And from the community calendar, the Portsmouth Art Around Town Gallery walk takes place year-round on the first Friday of every month. Participants get to enjoy strolling historic Portsmouth and explore multiple galleries featuring a broad range of works from local and international artists. Further information is available online at artaroundtown.org. And now some upcoming guests to the broadcast.
Our upcoming guest list starts with August 22nd. We're welcoming back Mary Joyce, and she has a current events and news site titled skyshipsovercashers.com, and she'll be returning to Spirit Radio to discuss her underground military bases in North Carolina. August 29th, our local quintessential storyteller and historian Roxy Zwicker is returning for more ghostly tales of the Portsmouth Seacoast area. September 5th, we welcome Billy Roberts, a paranormal author from the UK, and he'll be connecting with us to speak about his latest release, Ghostly Tales, Poltergeists, Haunted Houses, and Messages from Beyond. September 12th, we welcome Richard Estep. He's a British import now living in the U.S., and he's an EMT, and he's written about all kinds of ghost investigative experiences garnered from both the U.S. and the U.K. And then really quickly, September 19th, we'll be welcoming Nick Redfern, and he's going to be talking to us about chupacabras. He's just released a book on that. So that's our guest lineup.
All right, and a good lineup it is. And I just want to say that our guest tonight, Bill, is on Skype, so that means that we have a free phone line if anybody wants to call.
Good deal.
603-430-9722. Shane, maybe you're out there. Okay, and welcome back, Bill.
Welcome back, Bill.
All right.
So we definitely want to get into the idea of the secret military bases in the area, but there were several other things I wanted to bring up, too, that I think merit mentioning. And one of them would be, how about... the clock that keeps chiming.
The broken
clock. The broken
Mm.
clock that keeps working.
Oh, yes. And Michelle says it still does that to this day. It's with her now. So, yeah, and that's been seen before in some cases. And there definitely, that was an interesting case. Also, one of my favorites is the phone call.
Well, I was going to bring that up in just a second, but that clock belonged to Aunt Noni, right? And she was the one who died. And didn't she say that she was willing to die if Donna, at 4 months old, was allowed to live? Donna had a serious disease. I think she had cancer. And what is so sad is Donna got operated on. The parents came back home and told Aunt Noni that Donna was going to live. Aunt Noni went downstairs to her basement apartment, sat in her rocking chair, and died within the hour.
Yes.
I mean, talk about bizarre. It just gives me chills talking about that. And that clock belonged to her.
Yeah, exactly. And, if it was just an incident like that isolated, you say, oh, maybe it's coincidence or whatever. But it
happens a lot.
In this house and on this land.
Nothing's coincidental.
Everything that's happened. And there were other instances of family no longer there, watching out for them. Even like Bob when he needed a few dollars and had no money with the change coming from the top of the car.
That was strange.
Yeah, so there was, or if Don and Bob are arguing over a bill and the ashtray came down, and things like that.
But we don't want to leave them hanging.
Interaction,
about the ship disaster. We've got to tell them about that. So you want to start at the beginning, how that happened, Bill?
In fact, let me just, probably better that I
Page 76.
I
wrote it down, yeah.
I know, so you guys have this book memorized better than I do.
Well, I had to write a few things down, Bill. Can't commit everything to memory.
Yeah, well, I had some placeholders in there, and then some of them fell out.
They do fall out.
Yeah, this was summer 1984, so I'll read this one. This is a cool one. I was home all alone. The phone rang, and I picked it up thinking it was just like any random call we get. I couldn't have been more wrong. I answered and said hello, and on the other end, there was a communication. There was a commotion. It was as if I was just listening to something happen in real time, but it sounded like it was from a past time by the Victrola-like sounding voices and noise. Either that or I thought it was some type of crank call. After a few moments, it became very apparent to me that this was no crank call. It sounded like there was a real disaster in the making going on. There was a voice echoing in what sounded like the distance as he said, "Ahoy, matey, fire, a freighter up ahead." Then I heard men yelling in the background. There was confusion, splashing sounds as if people were abandoning ship, and other sounds typical of an old-time marine emergency. Then the line just went dead, and I heard the dial tone. I know in my mind my ears are witnessing a real incident from the past that somehow came through the phone.
How do you account for that?
I know. I think we should make it clear that that is an excerpt from Donna Philly's actual diary.
That which is
which of course is what the
whole book is about.
book,
yeah. But Donna wrote that. She experienced that.
Yes, and some of these occurrences, I think to myself, geez, too bad that didn't happen. Today, with our phones and technology today, it would have been really cool to see what kind of phone call record and to get more in depth in the technology has more ways of being searched out, today than years ago. And, as I look through some of these entries, I'm like, geez, if this one happened today, we may be able to, you think of all the things available to research further, but
to maybe actually see where the call came from.
That would be
Cal Cooper wrote Telephone Calls from the Dead.
I was going to mention that.
There are a lot of modern phone calls that people have received that he's chronicled different testimonies from people, and some of them get texts on their phones, or they'll get phone messages on their phones, and then they can't account for where the origin of the call. So I mean, it is still happening, Bill.
Yeah. That's
very bizarre.
Fascinating.
Talk about intersecting timelines.
Yeah, it actually seems to be fairly common.
Relatively,
relatively, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have a lot of examples in the book.
Oh, just fascinating. I just can't imagine witnessing that.
Yeah, really, and that is it's something I've heard of before, but it was interesting hearing an old scene play out like that. But I guess it makes sense. I mean, when you see some of these older scenes playing out in the house, or people from different times, it would
seem to walk on the property.
Yeah, just about all the senses are invoked, just like the cigar smoke that was smelled all the time, in the house.
Wasn't that the grandfather that smoked the pipe, or what was it? It was a pipe, wasn't it? Cigar. Okay.
Cigar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe a prior resident of the house. I don't think it was anybody in the family themselves. There was one member of the family that never lived in the house that did smoke a cigar. So I guess you can say maybe it's him. But that again, I try not to go. They're fun things to consider, but we can't say for sure because then we get into that, context and of course trying to find connections. And,
right.
But it is good to try to figure out how it fits, because knowing that some of the ancestors and past family members
do make the contact.
The contact in some way, or certainly appear that it would be them based on everything else, just like the figure in the mirror, for example, of again Minnie Gray, who's the same woman you were talking about that sat down in her rocker and died. Donna was okay.
Nani
so
Gray.
that. Yeah, and what was interesting is each family member that I was interviewing them separately, and they all looked in that mirror and said Minnie Gray. Even Bob, who of course is always he's always
he didn't want to talk about it.
Wasn't really the biggest believer, was he?
Well, he's not. He believes it happens, but he's not speculative at all.
Yeah.
After once you get him to open up, he knows it's real. Of course, in the book over the years, you see, he was stubborn and not not acknowledging it at first, which isn't uncommon, and
No.
I may have been the same way, but he's less, I think, speculative and probably tries to figure it out less. But even he, when he saw it, immediately went to that. And again, he's not the type of guy who tries to find out how everything fits.
No,
together.
he didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, he usually takes things at what he sees in that. So
There are a couple of other events that seem to lead up to what we're going to talk about, like portals and military bases. In the neighborhood, several people wound up developing like muscle cramping in their hands, feet, and legs, and migraine headaches. Do you recall that? It was like page 148, and I can't remember what it was relative to, but I believe it was before they discovered that there's something big going on here.
Yes, and that could very well be, when you have that kind of energy in that area, greater, when you have the paranormal plaque, it would stand to reason that could be some of it. And Donna's one of those people who knows everybody, so that's how she would come across it, and made notes of it in the diary. That's actually a more recent thing.
Right.
She wrote about that, in 2014, and she even thought some sort of energy affecting people, and who knows, but. She makes notes of all these things because, again, you don't know how they're going to fit together, and it's a possibility. So it's good to make a note of that.
Then how about the area? I guess it's the old farmhouse. There was a long road going out there, and there were two events. One was a cryptid that was spotted, and it had an upright cryptid, and it looked like a horse. It had a horse's face.
Yes, and the Bigfoot sightings in that whole area, there is a long history of that. The modern history going back at least to the 1950s, and then there's older and more obscure Bigfoot stories. And one of the famous ones is one where a guy tries to get away from the creature, and it's chasing him. He's on a horse, and the horse ends up dying. That's one that has appeared in a lot of the books, and that happened in that area. So
he was riding a horse.
Yeah, not in this particular part of the book, but I'm just saying in that's one of the more famous Bigfoot stories that actually is from the same area. And when Donna and Michelle were telling the story about this creature, they didn't know it was a Bigfoot sighting. They just relate it like it was just another one of the weird paranormal things that that go on. And of course, I started seeing the similarities and with the literature with what they're describing, and I told them, I said, you realize you're describing Bigfoot
with a horse-like face, though.
Yeah, that's.
I thought there were two different events. At page 159, it was weird the way she described it. It was walking on two legs, but it had four legs. And it was tall, and it was covered with long hair. She said it was about 10 feet tall. Well, was
right.
In that same general area where Donna's son Daniel, didn't they go for like they went camping on this land that had been, it was closed off to the public. There was no public access. These things supposedly happened in this area. In addition to that, they were chased away by men in ninja outfits. I
forget the exact outfits, but and Paul was chased out of that area too by armed.
That's right.
They were like heavily armed in military type.
Right, dressed in black.
I thought
military
it was
type uniforms.
black. Yeah. From the witnesses, I remember saying that, and Mark D'Antonio also was chased out of that area. So I think,
was he?
So I think it's just me and Shane that weren't chased out of the
Does that
I
make
wanted to be chased out of the area, but they had since closed it all off and fenced it off. And when they built a new farmhouse in place of that weird metal sheet that was down in that land. But now it just sits there. Nobody's doing anything with the land. They just fenced it all off and put, private property on it.
Yeah.
Well, would you like to explain that to the audience, Bill? What this farmhouse, what is believed this farmhouse is?
Well, I don't know. The farmhouse I think is just sitting there. I don't know what the intent of it covering up, but I think further back is what we believe, underground military base.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Potentially, yeah. And with, checking in with, some people we know that seems there's definitely something going on there. And we think that perhaps they're there, researching the energy that's coming out of this area. Or it could be completely unrelated, but it would stand to reason. It certainly would be reason enough to be there.
Yeah, so the military base is nothing that you've ever been able to prove, is that right? But it certainly sounds like there's a presence there, and they're hiding something.
Right, and we know people have gotten chased out of there,
Yeah.
Even in addition to, Paul and Mark, but
right. And is the black helicopter sightings? Are they still going on?
Yeah, on and off, and those are always tough because if you have any sort of military clearance, they'll send, if you have a secret military clearance, they'll send out a copter to kind of survey your house once a year, that kind of thing. So so that could be unrelated, but considering all the activity going on there, I certainly would guess it's likely that it's tied in.
Donna also wrote that it's believed that something happened about 3 years ago that they don't know. They don't know if there was an explosion or if people died or if there was some kind of biological problem, biological warfare release. But she said the place was abandoned, but no one comes and goes anymore, but it's still guarded.
Yes, yeah, and that's why Donna took me up to that area, and I was disappointed they had the thing all fenced in. I mean, I was tempted to go over it, but I figured it wasn't gonna end well for me, and I didn't want to get arrested, and
or worse.
Yeah, or worse, exactly. So I didn't. I was a good, responsible adult, even though I didn't want to be one. But it's just all fenced off now, and I'll have to continue to kind of check on that area and see if anything's being done with the land, or if it continues to just sit there unused, empty land the way it was when I was last there.
So this plot of land, for those who don't understand, it's kind of a triangular piece of land. There's Donna's farmhouse, there's what used to be another old farmhouse, and some swamp area, and this is where part of it is where the military base is. But in this whole general area, all of these strange things happen. Now, Paul Eno has a theory on that. Would you like to explain that, Bill? About the multiverses?
And we have about 4 minutes to do that.
4 minutes left.
Oh yeah,
Talk fast.
It definitely looks like it's a with the window, portal, whatever you want to call it, where we have these, as Mark D'Antonio coined, parallel world intersects, and it certainly seems like that's a commonality for so much of the paranormal, and I think that's really what this area gets at. Is that's why you have cryptids and UFOs and ancestors and entities, and that's why you have all these things, because they all kind of travel the same way, or potentially, and so that definitely seems like that's the case. And as Shane pointed out, Native Americans would they wouldn't open these portals, but they would seek them out, and um, because they knew that they can then tap into what's there. So
Mm-hmm.
if they saw the kind of flow of the river and that sort of thing, they would go and they'd settle at those places. So
Didn't
uh,
Shane also mention that the land is being guarded? There's a guardian overseeing the
yeah,
land.
yeah. He said that Native Americans had invoked spirits to watch over the land.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and he said it's very clear that Donna and the family has been accepted, and they're not bothering them at all. And if it was a different family there, like a Lindley Street kind of dysfunctional family,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it would be a nightmare. Yeah, it would be crazy.
But they do seem to put up with it awful well after all these years.
Yeah, I don't
you know?
know how they could put up with all this disconcerting activity. Just, ghosts appearing and it's just stuff happening all the time, distracting you from your daily life.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Donna earlier. She might be listening. She's going to laugh, but she was telling me, she was hearing footsteps. I think it was last night, and she was yelling at Bob, and of course, it wasn't. Then she found where Bob was, and it wasn't him. And so I'm like, geez, poor Bobby. He gets yelled at for everything, like the normal marriage guy stuff, and then he gets in trouble for all the
Oh,
paranormal
come on.
but no, it's funny. They're great, great couple. So,
Well,
but yeah, I mean, Donna, of course, was born and brought back to that house. So to her, the paranormal was, quite
Kind of
normal.
normal. And
And
it's
of course, we went for sleepovers, and everything was so quiet. So
and it's also odd that it seems like most of the family members would move away, but they'd come back to the house.
yeah.
They'd all
Everybody
move back
just
in.
keep coming back. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the house pulls you in.
Hmm. And Donna, if you are listening, hello.
Hello, Donna.
Like to meet you someday.
Terrific story. Even Donna's son Daniel and his girlfriend had ran into that 1940s road accident, and it really bothered the girlfriend. And they went back, and there was nothing left. There was nothing there.
yeah,
That was
that's
odd.
yeah, that's very fascinating. The way the uniforms and the cars didn't quite fit. And Mark D'Antonio pointed out that that's common, in the UFO literature as um, a way of covering up missing time, for example, things like that.
Screen memories, yeah.
Yeah, and it reminded me like something out of Twilight Zone, where trying to imitate what a scene would look like, but not quite getting all the details right. The fire engines are the wrong color for the town. The cars have the curved hoods, so it's like like a 1950s vehicle or something. So they didn't quite get it right, and so it was a very eerie experience. That one is that one's definitely just a bizarre one on the road. And there's other things, on the roads. There's a famous child that walks the streets of Oak Avenue in Torrington, and that's been talked about for many years. So this whole place definitely is still active, and houses near this one. There's other haunted houses in the area, as I point out in the book. Not to the degree, of course, that that the farmhouse is, but there's quite a lot of more isolated kind of incidents, or past loved ones, things like that in that area. So it is a very alive, flat, still active, going on.
And it is a very fascinating book. And unfortunately, Bill, we're out of time.
All right.
We thank you very much for joining us. You want to give out websites or where you can buy the book and all that kind of stuff?
Yes. Well, you can get a signed copy from me at williamjhallauthor.com, or it's available Amazon and stores, your independent bookseller, wherever great books and lousy books are sold. Hopefully mine's over with the great books, or at least somewhere in the middle.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a very intriguing account.
Yes, I suggest everybody go out and buy a copy.
It's terrific. Well, thank you very much, Bill. It was great having you on again.
My pleasure. It's been a great
Thank
time.
you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. And,
All right.
and have a good night.
Take care.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, and that is Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, one more time. And the graveyard shift is coming right up.
Well, good night, everyone, and thanks for listening.